Apex started as Titanfall 3, so when it was being developed, it went through some unusual stages. But thank you to Respawn and the developers being pretty open about it, we have loads of footage, and some of it is so weird. From wall running legends, to the oldest known image of Apex Legends, and Revenant's old voice, let's go over the best ones in one go. But this first one will definitely send shivers down your spine, because you know the announcer who announces when the ring closes? Well, when Apex first came out, this spooky voice line related to her was data mined, and this is pretty crazy.
Caution, Titanfall approaching battlefield. Stand by for Titanfall.
If that doesn't scream Apex was Titanfall, I don't know what will. And later on you will hear what the legend sounded like when they had their original voice actor. But what about the iconic select screen from Apex? Well, we actually have 3 clips when it was in development, and I'm going to try to give you a bit of a timeline. Because first of all, we got this clip from a developer which shows a very early version of the Apex select screen. Now, this looks pretty cool, until you realise one thing. Pathfinder has a spear! Where did he get a spear from? Yeah, I'm not sure whether this was a placeholder for his grapple, or he was genuinely going to have a spear that he just shot into people's faces. I don't think we'll know, although I think it was just a placeholder for a grapple. Next, we have this select screen from development where Pathfinder was a Marvin, which is pretty cool because obviously this is when Pathfinder's idea was being cooked up, and he was a Marvin with a grapple. You know, pretty simple stuff. And then next we have this, which is so awesome, I love this. It's the Legends, but in their early versions. And Wraith has a pilot helmet, which is so awesome. And this time, it looks like the spear was handed over to Bloodhound, but this isn't the last time you'll see Bloodhound's spear in this video. They were seemingly meant to have a spear as a big part of their personality. We actually also have some other clips of early versions of the Legends, and this one kind of gives me nightmares, because in this clip from development, Mirage goes over to Wraith and snaps her neck, which seems a bit out of character for Mirage, and I don't know why he's enjoying it so much. Obviously, when this finisher was being developed, Titanfall was pretty fresh in the brain of the Apex devs, because Titanfall had a lot of neck snapping. I distinctly remember being pretty surprised about how gory Titanfall was. When you stood behind someone and meleeed them, you would just 180 their neck. That is, it's kind of gross, I'm not gonna lie. But that original Titanfall melee definitely rears its head a bit in this finisher, which is pretty cool. But if you like looking at old in development stuff about Apex, would you like to see some straight up gameplay of Apex before it was released? I'm serious, around 2 years ago, Respawn released this awesome video which showed us so much never seen before gameplay of Apex before it was even finished. And we see some really interesting things in this, like the user interface was completely different from what it is nowadays. But there are some little details that you may have missed, which are also really cool. For example, we see a moment where Bangalore starts wall running. Yes, Apex was originally developed with wall running in mind, but I guess they had to remove it. And in other parts of the video, you can see just how much they built off Titanfall 2. For example, when the character gets kills, it all shows in Titanfall 2 badges. And also, a lot of the test accounts playing on this Apex Legends build are named TF2 test. So a lot of it's just reused straight over from Titanfall 2. And it's genuinely so cool to see, but so sad to see as a Titanfall fan, because you can see how much they ended up diverging from Titanfall in the future of Apex's development. Although, is it a bad thing? You can talk about that one in the comments. And obviously, when the characters were this early in development, they most likely didn't have voices. And you may not know this, but Respawn actually has pre-made voice lines for every single Legend when they don't have a voice actor. We actually saw this in a leak from a few years ago that showcased a lot of unreleased Legends. And one of the major details in this video was the fact that every Legend had the same voice. Just some random guy. And here he is.
Throwing an arc star. Using my ultimate. I'm using my tactical.
And the most likely fact about this voice is, this is the voice every character has before they get an official voice actor. And it just says the most basic things like, I'm putting my ability down, and pings. And I don't think this is anybody particularly notable. I do think this may be a Respawn dev just talking down the microphone to get these placeholders done. But either way, that's pretty interesting, because I can assure you right now, there's a Legend being developed currently speaking in that voice because they haven't got a voice actor yet. Which is kind of weird to think about. Staying on the topic of voices though, there's a lot of Legends that have After Effects added to their voices, like Bloodhound and Revenant, obviously to make them sound more like they're wearing a mask, or they're a killer robot. But once, when Revenant was first announced, Respawn accidentally released a trailer of Revenant speaking without the voice modulator. So this is what it sounds like when his voice actor, Darren DePaul, yes that guy, speaks straight into the mic, and it's kind of creepy.
They made me a killing machine. Who am I to argue with programming? They only think they know what fear is.
And if this voice makes you think of Samuel Hayden from Doom, well, it's because it is. Darren DePaul also voices characters like Reinhardt, I'm serious, and Samuel Hayden, which is pretty cool, and he's probably one of the most prestigious voice actors in Apex at the minute. But next, we'll go on to the oldest picture of Apex Legends ever taken, because this is what's known as the oldest picture right now. There could be an older one, but this is what's known as the older one, and it's pretty interesting. Basically, it just looks like Titanfall 2 with some really placeholder user interface slapped over it. For example, look at that health bar, that is just the most slapped on you can get. But upon zooming further, you realise some more weird stuff about this user interface. Respawn used Team Fortress 2 med packs as the placeholder for med kits. Yes, that Team Fortress 2. And may I once again remind you, this is an official screenshot. The most likely reason they have Team Fortress 2 med packs as placeholders is because Titanfall is on the Source engine, so perhaps some Team Fortress 2 assets were sitting in this engine and Respawn nabbed them and used them as temporary placeholders, or they just took it from the internet. We don't really know, and I don't think we'll ever know. Now, when this screenshot was taken, it was most likely that this was known as Titanfall 3 rather than Apex Legends. And I'm pretty sure we have a lot more gameplay from this era. Respawn released this blog post a few years ago, and it does show a lot more Titanfall-y Apex stuff. And it's pretty interesting, and it seems originally in Apex Legends you were meant to come in a drop pod and drop somewhere randomly on the map, and that's how you'd enter the map rather than jumping from a dropship. And that early development stage of dropping from a drop pod is most likely what you see in the sky in this early screenshot. And I want to touch on the weird history of Octane, because this is what he originally looks like in development. The reason he had such a spider appearance is because, according to the developers, Octane was originally addicted to drugs extracted from a spider. So that's why he had such a spider-like appearance, and also it most likely inspired his Edition skin, which is very spider-based. And also around this time, he did also have a face concepted up, and this is what he looked like. He definitely looks like a guy that's addicted to spider drugs, to be honest. Like, I've never seen someone addicted to spider drugs, but that's what it would look like. And I think the reason he didn't maintain this design is because the original designs made people feel uncomfortable, apparently. Like, I can imagine Respawn showing this to people in a room, being like, do you like this design? And they just start crying or something. I don't know, it's pretty hilarious. But Octane wasn't the only legend to have something changed in their development, because Bloodhound, yes, we're back to Bloodhound, they were originally meant to have a spear in some capacity. Could it be as an ability or an heirloom? We don't really know, but in several concept arts we've seen Bloodhound with a spear, and we actually saw a Bloodhound spear finisher, which is super brutal. Basically, Bloodhound spawns a spear and then throws it through Gibraltar's head. Yeah, Apex's old finishers were really something else. Like, every time I see one, it just progressively gets more brutal. And staying on the topic of creepy, this isn't before Apex release, but it still is in development. Revenant went through a surprising amount of iterations where they couldn't decide how he was going to walk. Originally, Respawn decided he could be a floating legend, but obviously that never happened. Most likely because making him float just seems like a recipe for issues, and then they decided to go on to give him Revenant potentially 4 legs for his passive, which I like the idea of, and it would also be cool if this somehow lessened your recoil. Like, imagine the possibility: a Rampart Amp shield, putting your 2 other legs down, and just spraying hell with a Spitfire. But honestly, with that concept I just made up in my head, they probably wouldn't go through with it, because it incentivizes a very campy playstyle, because I assume you can't go very fast on 4 legs, and the whole point of giving you 4 legs is to stop you when you shoot and make you an easier target to hit. But either way, it's kind of cool to see what Apex could have become, and almost the alternate history of Apex Legends. And I do have to applaud Respawn for allowing devs to release this kind of stuff, because it's so interesting to look at. But what's your favourite scrap thing from this video? And also, subscribe for Bloodhound Spear.